Today on Soup and Meatballs, Juan Soto hasn't signed yet, but the numbers are insane already. The Bears debut their new head coach out in the Bay, and the Cavs have as many losses as the Wizards have wins. But first, our top story. It's a big day for Michigan fans. Tim, how are you before we get into this?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm tired. I was out in Philadelphia for a gaming convention called PAX Unplugged, and my son had district band tryouts that we had to get him to the high school really early. I woke up at 4:30 yesterday morning, and I don't know what time I went to bed, but it was late. But I got a late start on today, and if you see me scratching my eyes, I'm still wiping some of the sleep out.
I got a late start too. I wasn't up until like maybe 8:30 or so, which is kind of late for me. And then I text you like, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm just getting a shower.
I got up at 8:20, and I'm just to give you a comparison. On a day off, like on a weekend, my body usually gets me up at 6:45.
Same here.
It's like, hey, no work. Let's go play because you have time.
Even on work days, I'm up before my alarms.
No, as we get later in the school year, the alarm gets me, and sometimes it scares me. But I'm ready to go, and we've got some good stuff here today. Starting off with something good for us. I mean, I called it sort of last week after I said Ohio was going to win by 30. I said if Michigan held it close for the first quarter, they had a shot. It's like the Mike Tyson fight in the video game. If you can last the first 90 seconds, you have a chance. Ohio had a 3-0 lead after the first quarter, and Michigan had an attitude about itself that we hadn't seen all year. And at halftime, the only reason the game was tied was because Jeremiah Smith got one of the worst calls of the year. He was plowing into the defensive back. It was like a run block.
Yeah,
and he got a
thrown him to the ground.
Got a DPI call that the next play he scores a 10-yard touchdown, and it's 10-10. How are you feeling at halftime?
Better than I expected, just because of the way the defense was playing and the way that it felt like things kept breaking for Michigan. Those like the non-calls aside, it felt like Ohio State was leaving points out there that they weren't taking advantage of opportunities, that the
missed field goal helped.
Right. And
the first half.
I know you weren't listening to the call.
No,
I was listening to Gus Johnson. I normally don't mind. But Gus Johnson had a bad day because on that Ohio State touchdown, you would have thought Ohio State just hung 40 points on Michigan in the first half because he's like, now Chip Kelly's got him rolling, touchdown, Buckeyes. And it's like, dude, it's 10-10.
Dude, it's 10-10. And you were gifted that 7, let's be honest.
Right.
So not listening to the call, because I was watching with my daughter at the time? She was watching some kind of cartoon. So I had that volume while I was watching on the iPad on mute. Like, I was fully expecting an offensive pass interference call. So I don't know what the announcers were saying at that time. That was the biggest call I thought that they missed. They didn't have a lot of penalties. Neither Michigan nor Ohio State, I don't think. It didn't feel like it, at least.
No, it was a pretty clean game. And I also was expecting an offensive pass interference call there. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of Ohio State this year, but I saw some clips after the game where this has been a pattern with their receivers, where they've been able to just get away with murder.
Well, you go to have. I'm feeling nervous because at 10-10, I thought, shucks, there goes any momentum we built up. Because you go into the half, you're feeling good about yourself. Ohio gets the ball to start the second half. That's a big thing. But for the entire second half, there's no scoring. And as the game progressed, the tension just started building up. You could see it in the stands, and almost like the Ohio coaching staff. Oh no, we're in a dogfight. 20-point spread. We expected to win this by 30, and with 6:13, Ohio they're deep into their own territory. They have to punt to Michigan. Michigan gets the ball at their own 40, and the amazing field position just Michigan couldn't throw the ball. They couldn't. So you knew they had to run. And it's 3rd and 6. Khalil Mullings takes a handoff going off to the right. Tim, how are you feeling when he hits the line?
Not great.
My heart
because
sunk.
He didn't even get back to the line of scrimmage when he had a guy blast him in the knees. And I thought it was getting stopped for a loss. And, like a 58-yard field goal try or something like that.
I don't think they would have tried to kick.
I don't. I know, like that's a big weapon. One of the best weapons they have offensively is the ability to, rely on the kicking game. But I don't know if they kick there either. I think they would probably try to pin Ohio State and play the field position game at that point.
Defense again, because they've been playing it the whole second half. But Mullings breaks free, and I did a little during this, and it is a 27-yard gain, gives them a first down. They are well within my field goal range now, so obviously Dominic Zavada he's warming up the leg. And Michigan goes into clock control mode, which was super smart, forcing Ohio to call their timeouts. And then the 12-man substitution penalty. I didn't get it because, again, not listening to the broadcast. What did they say about Day's substitution? I thought there was a timeout. There's back-to-back timeouts.
Right, so you're not allowed to call back-to-back timeouts anymore. So they had to take the too many men on the field penalty.
And that gave the first and goal at 9.
Right, and it cost them about 40 seconds.
And this is where I thought Michigan really should have used my false start on 2 hack, where at first down, kneel, who cares? But then on second down, you tell one of the linemen, just jump, and we'll steal 35 seconds. You do that a couple times. But so Michigan runs the ball. They do exactly what you would expect to do in that situation. They get a 21-yard field goal. Ohio does get a chance, though. They get the ball with 45 seconds left. But the defense comes through in the end, and just I don't believe that fourth down play. There was a mixture of relief and euphoria that I hadn't felt in a long time.
Probably since Alabama.
Yeah. Oh, the playoff game. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably since the stop on Milrow to end out the Alabama game.
And that game was like the national championship team, the undefeated team, felt a little different than a 7-5 team or a 6-5 team going into the shoe as 30-point dogs.
I've got to tell you, on that run, so when he bounces off the hit, goes to the outside off like right tackle and finds some room, in Silence of the Lambs, when Catherine Martin's down in the well in Buffalo Bill's house, and the camera starts to pan up and she sees something, she starts to scream, and Buffalo Bill just starts going, I made a noise not dissimilar to that when that happened. Like, I just stood up out of my chair and went, ah! Ah! It was disbelief, elation, and maybe 10% Buffalo Bill impression.
A little bit of both. So the $20 million Buckeye roster failed to pay the kicker. Some of those kicks that the Ohio kicker missed were chip shot gimmies. I don't know if it was the situation because it was a close game. And Ohio State, outside of Oregon, hasn't played a lot of close games. Penn State was pretty close, but they're coming off a couple weeks of just absolutely blowing people out. You said last week
Indiana
when Ryan Day called the quarterback sneak to get the last touchdown against the Hoosiers, that they're used to bullying people, and I think they thought Michigan was going to be just another kid in the play yard.
Yeah, and I loved the confidence before the game. Charles Woodson being like, "No, Michigan's going to win this." Like Urban Meyer looking at him like he had 3 heads. And then
I don't think Woodson will ever bet against Michigan. I don't think Woodson will ever bet against them, and I don't think Meyer will ever bet against Ohio. That makes those silly pregame things kind of moot. But Woodson, I like when they play in Ann Arbor and Woodson gets up and starts riling up the crowd. That I like that. Meyer doesn't do that in Columbus. I don't know if the feeling about the rivalry is the same there, even though Meyer coached in it. Woodson played in it. There's a difference.
what Meyer does, and part of the problem of having former players or coaches on your panel, Meyer gets media access, and he's been accused in the past of basically doing advanced scouting by attending practices or
He's
and then
not. He's
passing
not using
information along.
He's not using an Apple iPhone from 70 yards away, so
Right.
it's cool.
Yeah. I know that's been people had that concern with when Saban left Alabama. Like, what was he going to do with that access? Being on game day.
You haven't heard. I haven't heard as much about Saban, at least.
I haven't, but I've heard it several times about Urban Meyer.
Oh, so have I. Now that you bring it up, I think, speaking of coaches, I think we can actually credit this win to Jim Harbaugh and Lou Holtz, who apparently are still in Ryan Day's head about how tough Ohio is. Because let's be honest, Ohio has some of the best wide receivers in the country, and they have a quarterback capable of getting them the ball. Yet they decided to run into the teeth of this defense 46 times, something like that, 36 times. They rushed for 77 yards. And Michigan's senior edge rusher, Josiah Smith, basically said after the game, we were more physical. Film doesn't lie. We took it to them all game. We didn't wait and let the rhythm come to us. We took the fight to them. And that was Michigan's defensive mentality throughout the game. And I think that's Ryan Day trying to show the world how hard he is.
Yeah, Ryan Day is like the human embodiment of imposter syndrome with a funny beard and too much rouge. He seems like he wants to crack that echelon of elite college coaches. And he seems to act against his own self-interest because he wants to win a certain way. The win isn't enough. You're right. He has to prove that he's a big, tough guy, that he can run on Michigan. And it cost him. Because they should
absolutely cost them.
Tried to throw the ball all over, and I know, I don't know what the wind
Michigan
was.
started getting pressure on Howard in the second half.
They
but
did.
In the first half, the offensive line, which was kind of makeshift for Ohio, they had a couple injuries. Michigan's defensive line wasn't doing much in the first half against the pass. They couldn't get pressure.
I'm curious because I didn't think to look this up before we went on. The last time Ohio State scored as few as 10 points against Michigan.
Oh, they outscored themselves in each of the last 3 Michigan wins. Because the joke is in 2020 when Day said they were going to hang 100 on them, they haven't hit 100 points in the last 4 games total. But they've scored more than 10.
His tenure.
Yeah, they're 18 short right now. So,
well, hopefully he comes back next year. I would love for him to stay in Columbus.
He's 48. He's 48-2 against everybody else in the Big Ten. Like the Oregon, he might be 48-1. He's a winning coach.
So was John Cooper.
Michigan. He just can't beat Michigan.
He is John Cooper 2.0.
And that's not good enough in Columbus. However, he's got a chance at redemption. We'll talk about here in a second. But post-game, big kind of controversy. After the game, Tavier Dunlap and Hogan Hansen led a group of Wolverines out to midfield to plant the M flag, and this move was not well received by the Buckeyes. Several brawls started on Saturday. This was the first one. Tim, what are your thoughts on overall on flag planting by a visiting team?
I think it's stupid, but I get it. I feel like the win should be enough. But I think as stupid as flag planting is, starting a fight over it is even stupider.
And there were 5 of them. So 2 years ago, and a couple former Wolverines came out, defended this, including one of our favorites, Mikey Sainderstill. Sainderstill came out and said, I understand the level of pride that comes with defending your territory, but I understand both sides. Look, our guys walked into a hostile environment, took over their turf, and celebrated how they celebrated. Everything else that came after is what happened. So Sainderstill actually did this in 2022. He started the we took over in Columbus after Baker Mayfield did it. But I think from what I read, Texas and Oklahoma, this has happened there a lot. The way I look at it,
Texas did it this year in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, well, Texas this year, but though I look at it as a former coach, I try not to give my opponent any more motivation than they need. And Ohio coming to Michigan next year, this should fuel them, whether it does or not. I don't know. I mean, you would think losing 3 in a row, being at home, big favorites, that would be enough. But I was never a big fan of giving my rival something else to work towards. And I guess you can use that as motivational fuel for yourself that, okay, we're at home next year. We have to defend our Block M. So maybe it's a good thing for next year's Michigan team. I don't know. Nick Saban came out just yesterday or the day before, I think, and he criticized the NCAA for the fine that they levied. I don't quite understand this. I mean, if you want to suspend some of the players for the bowl game for Michigan because Ohio's in the playoff or whatever, that's whatever. I don't care about that. But where's that $100,000 going, and what's it doing? Honestly,
it's a meaningless gesture. It's the NCAA saying, we don't support this. We're cracking down on this while not actually cracking down on anything.
Yeah, and what happened to the other teams that caused a hubbub or hullabaloo, whatever you want to call it, with their flag planting and their fights? What happened there?
And I think any discipline has to come from inside the program.
Take them run Kentucky's. Run.
Yeah, suspend them for a quarter of the bowl game. Whatever you think is appropriate.
Well, what bowl game do you think Michigan's going to? Suspend them for the whole thing. Who cares?
Yeah, well,
but I mean,
most of them will sit it out anyway because they don't want.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're not going to see. Obviously, you're not going to see Will Johnson. Will Johnson didn't play in this game. This is bigger than the bowl game. I don't think you'll see Loveland. I don't think you'll see Mason Graham.
Yeah. Depending on Donovan Edwards' health. I doubt we'll see Donovan Edwards.
He's a running back. Let him. Who cares? Let all the freshmen play. That's what this bowl game should be for Michigan. It's like a glorified spring game against whoever they're playing.
And I remember texting this to you last January that's what the non-playoff bowl games have essentially become. It's become an early spring game.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it too.
Fine with it.
I wonder if the NCAA has looked into overhauling the system to put a more entertaining product out there, because it's got to be hurting ratings and ad rates for the non-playoff bowl games.
I guess they had the NY6 or the NYD, the Big Six. I don't know. And if you look at I'm checking right now. My producer's in my ear. A couple sporting outlets, they're predicting either the Music City Bowl against Missouri or LSU. Some people say the ReliaQuest Bowl against Florida. So you probably get an SEC team, but a lower tier SEC team, and it'll be a game. And
I think
it'll be
Florida
fun.
could be a fun matchup depending on who plays.
Sure. I don't know anything about. Florida had a tough schedule this year.
Yeah, but from what I saw of them, they took it to Florida State, who
Florida State had a year.
Yeah,
we had a year, but
they've had a tough 15 months.
Yes, they have. So Michigan, Ohio, that game has repercussions. And yesterday, being conference championship weekend, neither the Wolverines nor the Buckeyes played in Indianapolis. It was Penn State the beneficiary of the Wolverines' upset win, taking on Oregon, the team who was number one for bulk of the season. And Penn State's offense looked good. They've looked better than they've looked in big games, but the defense, oh boy. Tim, did you catch this one?
I watched the majority of this one, and it was wildly entertaining. I'm not a Penn State fan. I'm not an Oregon fan, but just as a fan of the game, it was just a really riveting, just track meet. It was
back and forth. If you're a fan of offense,
right?
82 total points. They blew away the over.
And I'm not a Penn State hater. but I thought Penn State was going to lose by 14 or more. I thought
Yeah,
they might lose by 14 to 21 points. So I think if
I
anything,
probably
Penn
shared
State.
that.
I think Penn State showed a little something
Near the end, and I talking about James Franklin's record in big games, another top 5 loss. So the offense is going back and forth, and Penn State just scores a touchdown to go down 8. They went for 2, and like a Philly special type play for 2. Help me out. Why do you go for 2 in that spot if you're down by 8?
It felt unnecessarily desperate. It felt like they were chasing points. I didn't understand it myself because there were still 14 minutes left in the game.
But so that call, that miss, now you're down 8. Oregon scores, you score again. But if you get the ball back, which I think Penn State did near the end of the game, now you're down 8 and you have to get the 2-point conversion just to tie. Whereas if you kick the extra point, go down 7, then you hold. If you score a touchdown, if you want to be the hero and say we're going to win this now, then you go for 2. Then you do that Philly special type thing. But you have the option to tie the game if you feel like momentum has gone your way for the bulk of the fourth quarter. You don't give yourself that option going for 2 when you did. That was the only move that I saw, and I caught most of the game because it was about the time I got home. That was the only part that really is James Franklining right now.
Yeah, it was inexplicable. And something else from the fourth quarter, I don't think the officials did Penn State any favors, and I say that as a completely neutral observer. I thought there was the one hit where I thought Oregon hit Drew Aller late, and then also.
But they got a first down on the very next play. And the announcers even said, "Well, it doesn't matter now."
But
no, that was on a hold. That was a hold.
And then the one where they said the returner rule or called for a fair catch when his hand didn't come above his shoulder.
Yeah, but you know what that is? That's the Kenny Pickett fake slide. His arm was out here. I think that's got to be close enough because if that Oregon defender comes down and lights him up like John Evans, that's 15. And I'm going to segue here really quick. We'll get back to college football. Last week, the hit on Trevor Lawrence. You remember this?
Sure.
You had to see it. So whether that was a late slide or not, and whether it was a dirty hit or not, my first thought goes to Patrick Mahomes and those sideline runs that he does that he's, I'm going to go out of bounds. Psych.
I hate that.
He runs for another 30. I'm sorry. If it was a dirty hit, the Tennessee Titan guy who I can't think of his name, it was a dirty hit. It was late. It was a late slide. But you know what? If it's a fake slide and Lawrence gets another 30, you're getting chewed out in film. So that the Penn State returner that does this, the Oregon guy, the Oregon punt team erred on the side of caution. And if Penn State runs that back for a touchdown, they're chewed out in film. That's the kind of stuff I think the referees took that into consideration. I really do.
Well, I'll say this. I think if we're serious about player safety, fake slides or, that, I'm going out of bounds. No, I'm not. You don't want to over-legislate the game, but I would be okay if that becomes a penalty, like a fake slide.
But I've only seen the Pickett slide.
The game has to tell quarterbacks to protect themselves, and it has to say the defense is under the assumption you're giving yourself up. It's not like a fake spike like the Dan Marino to Mark Ingram against the Jets in '94. This is purely a player safety issue.
Safety thing, I agree. But if that call kind of went one way or the other, that's fine. But really, the Oregon Ducks coming out, win the Big Ten, and they've been number 1 for a while. The team has been number 2 for a while down in the SEC. Well, now here's where things get a little weird and wonky. 2 upset wins in conference title games. The Georgia-Texas game, maybe not massive because both teams were going to be in the playoffs. I didn't catch this because I was on the road. I was out at PAX. Did you see the SEC title game?
I only saw like updates as it was happening. I I've seen some chatter online, and I wonder if there's any truth to it that Texas might seriously consider installing Arch Manning. Uh,
For the playoffs.
yeah, I don't know if it's turning into a bit of a Chris Sims Major Applewhite situation. But yeah, Texas, who I've thought all year was the best team in the country, did not look good.
And maybe that's just it's a one game thing. If you look at where the game is played, it's kind of a home game for Georgia. So
Right.
there's that. The I like you, I was on my phone just getting updates like, wow, this game is going to overtime. And oh, wow, Georgia won. The game I was able to watch, though, at the same time as the Big Ten title game, Clemson just stormed Southern Methodist in the first half. And then SMU came back. They fought back to make it a game. But now Clemson, 3-loss Clemson, wins the ACC, gets an automatic playoff berth. And if you look at, I checked two different projections. If you can see the screen, the first one is going to be on 3 Sports. They have Clemson as the 12 seed getting in. They have Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Boise State 3, and Arizona State 4. So Clemson, the ACC, that the highest rated conference champion, gets the 12. On 3 has this bracket. Now, this is all projection. We're going to see the real bracket later today. This is one look. Fox has this look, which I actually like more. We have Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Arizona State 3, Clemson 4, and then Boise State at 11. Texas, Ohio State, I think, could be a really fun game. Notre Dame, Alabama, I think, is a fun game. Indiana, Tennessee, I think, is a worthwhile game. And then Penn State, I think the Penn State fans would love this as the 6, getting a home game against Boise and then a semifinal against, or a quarterfinal against Arizona State on their way to probably Georgia.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think about these brackets?
I do prefer the Fox one because I don't think Penn State should be penalized for getting to a conference championship and losing when they played as well as they did.
Going back to on 3, they have Penn State at 6 here as well. They just have Alabama in there,
right,
on the way to Boise State. I think Penn State, Alabama would be a wild game too. I like the Fox one because it gives Ohio a tougher game. It gives them Texas instead of Tennessee.
I'll tell you who's a tricky one is Notre Dame, just with not having a conference championship game. It's tough to. It feels like you're rewarding Notre Dame for being an independent and not venturing anything in a conference championship game.
The one thing that Notre Dame will never get, though, they'll never get the first round bye. This was their bye week,
right?
The conference title week. So they will always have to play that first round game, and that's what the committee will tell you.
How do you feel about Alabama? 3-loss Alabama. So
SMU, if you look at both brackets, SMU is the 2-loss team that's out.
Yeah.
I think in this case, it's Army-Navy week coming up. Why not have Alabama SMU? Just have a random throw-in game. This is the argument we said, it's 12 teams. That the argument between 12 and 13 is not as big as the one between 4 and 5. And they're right. I think Alabama's a better team than SMU. I think they would draw better ratings. But I hadn't watched SMU all year until last night, and their quarterback is electric. They look like the old Houston Oilers of the 90s with the uniforms. But at the end of the day, I think SMU draws more eyeballs. I think they're a better team. I think Alabama, that's why both Fox and On3 have them in there.
You think Alabama draws more eyeballs?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't you?
You said SMU. I just wanted to make sure.
Listen to what I mean, not what I said.
Yeah, obviously, I can't remember who made the point that it's not necessarily a meritocracy. It's about brand awareness. And yeah, casuals are going to tune in to watch Alabama. much more, outside of the state of Texas. I don't know who's going to really be interested. Like SMU has the Cinderella story angle, but I also think SMU has more of a chance to get their doors blown off.
If you want Cinderella, it's at the bottom of this bracket. You got Indiana, Boise State, Arizona State. You got all the Cinderellas you want.
Yeah. SMU
Indiana versus SMU is interesting record-wise.
Right. SMU's an unfortunate cut, but I mean, look, we've already expanded it to 12, and I would put in, Indiana, Boise. Well, Boise's,
Boise
right. But
UNLV winning. Oh boy, if UNLV had won that game, we didn't talk about the Big 12 title game. We didn't talk about what happened with UNLV. If UNLV wins that game, I don't think you put Boise in, but yeah, that would have been crazy.
It's sad what an afterthought the Big 12 has become.
Well, that's when the big teams go, they leave. You're going to eventually have the AFC and NFC, the Big Ten, the Big North, the Big South.
Yeah. I'm going to be very interested over the next 10 to 20 years how the conferences keep either shifting or fracturing or, like you're saying, more likely merging.
And if you look at how other leagues do their playoffs, for example, Division II, the Division II playoffs here, where you have 4 regions that each have 7 teams, that's 28. Is that a 28 team playoff Division II does?
Is it?
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 4. Are they? I can't see the brackets because I'm a bad slideshow maker. But just talking about you're the smartest guy in the world and Slippery Rock winning, you see a bracket system like this where D2 now goes to a Final Four after a playoff in regions. That you might see something like that, but I don't know how long this 12-team playoff is contracted. That's the other thing. Like D1 can't possibly change anything for the next 12 years now or something.
And I think the regional model works better in Division II than it would in Division I. Because say you're going to make it, Northeast, South, Midwest, and West. So in the last 5 years, where you have, Alabama's good, Clemson.
Midwest and South would be killer brackets, and then the West would be
right. We would run into the same problem where the 5th best team in the South would probably, win out West, but they can't even get into the event because they played in the strongest region of the country.
Exactly. I don't want to see this in D1. I really don't. I don't want to see a 64-team bracket because honestly, at the end of the day, when you look at how many games Ohio would have to play to win a title, that they're 12 games in already, 13, 14, 15. They would be playing 16 games.
Well, those guys will certainly be ready for the NFL.
Absolutely. But we're talking about in our lifetime, college football used to be 11. It's 5 extra games. That's a lot.
Yeah. And also, I know this
it's a lot for D2. It's a lot for these kids. It's a lot for the kids from Slippery Rock.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I know when I was in school and BU was making runs in nationals, you have to. I know in Division I it's not as much of a consideration, but the academics, for some of these guys who aren't going to the NFL and do need their degree and do need their classroom time, and now they're traveling all around the country 5 more times.
The only good thing I can think about their education today versus when we were in college is the advent of online classes. I mean, that's the one possible saving grace for some of these kids, that they can get some of their lecture time through Zoom and stuff like that. But it's tough to focus. I mean, you're in a playoff against other big schools. Do I really care about my chemistry lab?
Right. You're scouting, whoever, Boise State. And I have to write a paper for my philosophy class on Jean-Paul Sartre. That's a busy week.
I'm more concerned about how to stop this running back. Dude, He's going to run for 600 yards against me if I worry too much about my algebra class.
It's funny to me though how there's never going to be a perfect solution. So we had the bowl system where then the voters would just decide, and people are like, "Oh, boo!" So then they brought in the BCS, and people are like, "No, computers, boo!" So they're like, "All right, we'll give you a 4-team playoff," and then the 5th and 6th best teams in the country are like, "What about us, boo?" So now we expand it to 12. And people are still going to,
we skipped over 8. I thought 8 might have been the next logical one. No, then we went to 12.
I'm surprised it didn't go from 4 to 16. Like you would typically think it goes in multiples of 4. Well, not 4, but like 4, 8, 16. Like the NCAA, like the big dance. Yeah,
even that started expanding then with the play-in games and the first 4 on the Tuesday. At some point, we have to say enough is enough. There's not time in the calendar to play all these games.
Right. The regular season is your play-in.
That's how you part of it. Yeah, playoffs. That's your play-in. You work your way in through some of those.
How Oregon got in? They had an 11-game play-in. They won all 11.
Yeah, and they won their conference, so they get a bye. So good for them. And we'll see later today what the actual playoff is. In Division II, your boys, Slippery Rock, they have Ferris State. Looks like they just absolutely throttled Harding. So we'll see how far the PSAC school can get here in D2. Full report coming next week on Soup and Meatballs. But being as we're on a Sunday, again, we have some NFL games to look at. The Eagles, they got the Panthers. They should be pushovers. Will they be?
I think so. But I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop because the Eagles have now, they've won 8 in a row. And you just kind of wait. You wait for, especially with Pittsburgh coming up, you just keep waiting for that dud. But I don't think this week is the dud. I think the Eagles win fairly comfortably. That defense is playing so well right now.
If you look at the schedule or the line on it, for those of you who are interested in the DraftKings situation, Philly's favored by 2 touchdowns. It's a 14-point line. That's a lot.
I was guessing maybe 12, but 14. Wow.
It's up to 14 today. That's based on action. We know. The Bears out in the Bay. Bears debut their new head coach, Thomas Brown, against the depleted San Francisco 49ers. Preseason, back when I thought the Bears were going to win 10, possibly 11 games, I had this pegged as a loss. Obviously, I had San Francisco in the Super Bowl. What do I know?
Me too.
The Niners have a lot of injuries, and I think I saw McCaffrey was going on the IR to end the season, so they've almost decided that this is it. This is a possible win for the Bears. I think if you look at the way Caleb Williams has played the last several weeks, he has improved. He is, I have no doubt, he is a future star, provided the Bears, the next head coach is I've seen this said on TV, and I agree, it is the most important decision the Bears will make or will have made in the last 50 years. If they biff this,
I brought him up last. A name I brought up last week, Eric Bieniemy, was just let go at UCLA.
UCLA had a terrible year at the Bruins. Yeah, I saw that earlier in the week. I was going to send it to you, but I think if they can get Ben Johnson or Cliff Kingsbury, that would be a good move. We'll see. Thomas Brown has a 5-game audition, and game 1 starts against San Francisco this afternoon. The other big game, I guess you can call it a big game, the Chiefs and Chargers. That's the night game tonight. That should be a pretty entertaining one. Other than that, it looks like a lot of duds across the schedule. Top teams not playing big games. Pittsburgh has Cleveland. It's kind of a meh game. Detroit and Green Bay was already the big game of the week.
Doesn't it feel like this season there's a bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots? Like you have 6 teams that are really good to great, and then you have some real dogs out there. The
big 3 that I can think of outside of Philadelphia, because they've been hot. Detroit and Buffalo, obviously Kansas, but Kansas City hasn't won impressively. I think Kansas City, if they keep playing like this, they're early out in the playoffs. I really do.
But I agree. I think someone can sneak up on them in the
The
playoffs.
bad has just been so bad between like the stories of the Jets and the Giants. Just New York, awful throughout. The Raiders having a
Jacksonville,
lousy year. Trevor Lawrence's team, like he's just eh. And then there's a lot of just average in the middle. Like your teams, like Minnesota has overachieved with their quarterback situation. But your Seattle's, your Denver's overachieved, but they're still just kind of meh.
But like the teams that were supposed to compete for divisions like Cincinnati, Dallas, San Francisco.
But Cincinnati was going to win 14 games.
Well, they still could. Maybe they'll get in the play.
The next 3 years, they might win 14 games total. Man.
What do you think? What do you think Eberflus is doing today? Early Christmas shopping? Making a gingerbread house? Based on his clock management, I think Eberflus is one of those like Christmas Eve, Christmas shopping. Yeah. He's like, no, we've got plenty of time. And then at like 8:00 on Christmas Eve, he's like, frantically wandering around like a Hallmark store,
get my list,
like buying someone.
Meanwhile, he can't seem to find something, so he just goes and gets like 30 gift cards. It's like, here. A lot of thought put into that one, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah. Here's $25 at Cracker Barrel on me.
Yeah, he wouldn't even give you the Visa gift card. He gets you the one from like Dave & Buster's. Like, I don't have a Dave & Buster's where I live. I thought you'd enjoy a trip.
Yeah, it's an excuse to get out of the house. Go treat yourself.
Get on the road. There you go. Amazingly, and I don't pay attention to this too much, so I thought we'd throw this in the rundown for you. We're 30% of the way through the NBA regular season. Can you believe that? And
well, Christmas Day is a huge. It's what Thanksgiving is to the NFL. Christmas Day is to the NBA.
I have really that written up here. My little intro here for you. The NBA tries to put the marquee games on Christmas, and they may want to do some flex work if they can, because I looked at the schedule, and preseason you would think a game like Philadelphia at Boston is a big game. Not so much. I don't know if there's a marquee game on Christmas that you want to watch. Nobody saw what happened in Cleveland happening, and I start paying slight attention to the NBA after the All-Star break, which is 2 months away. Tim, what makes the NBA worth watching until then?
I think stories like Cleveland and seeing a young team like OKC in the West, I think the surprising turns from the first 30% are what make the NBA worth watching. Watching the drama play out in LA with, a team that seemingly is allergic to playing defense. Wondering what's happening with Milwaukee. Will they deal, Damian Lillard, or are they going to go all in and try to make a run, and sort of capitalize on Giannis's peak?
Milwaukee right now, a half game out of the playoffs. They're still in it,
right? Because
the Lakers, on the other hand,
the Lakers are struggling.
I look at just records, because that is not watching the league too much. There's a really big bell curve where you've got the Clevelands, the Bostons, and Oklahoma Cities, and then on the other end, Utah, New Orleans, and Washington just they're fighting for the top pick, and then a lot of stuff in the middle. And I haven't heard a big story, and I haven't been self-admittedly paying much attention. Cleveland's big start, I think, is big news, but the has the NBA Cup started? Is that still a thing around now?
Yeah, they're to the knockout stage.
The NBA is trying some gimmicky stuff to get people like me to pay attention. And what caught my attention was the look of the courts. I sent you a picture the other day. Like, is this what we're doing in the NBA now? And you said, yeah, the NBA Cup looks kind of funny. I'm like, oh, that's what they do for the court during this little in-season tournament. I hadn't recognized that.
It's mostly hideous.
It is like
it's too busy. It's too shiny. It's like dollar store wrapping paper.
It's designed to get eyeballs, which, I mean,
there were car accidents.
We'll talk about that, the other ways to get eyeballs here in a second. But going into the All-Star break, not a lot of news in my head for the NBA. As a Celtic fan, you're probably happy with the way the season's going, I imagine.
Yeah, they were. And I'll tell you, speaking of Milwaukee, I got to watch the Celtics and the Bucks the other night as part of a doubleheader, and they played a very entertaining game. The Bucks really pushed Boston, which makes me think that maybe we haven't seen the best Milwaukee has to offer yet. I definitely don't think we've seen the best the Knicks have to offer. I think that's going to be the story of the back half of this season in the East is who is going to step up to challenge Cleveland and challenge Boston.
If we look right now, the New York Knicks would stand to be the 4 seed, and that they would get the Hawks, but that's so far down the line. Not even concerned about that.
The Hawks aren't bad. The Hawks beat the Celtics at the start of the NBA Cup.
They did. I actually remember. I don't remember the game, but I remember the situation. Interesting stuff. We'll keep tabs on the NBA going forward through Christmas. The other thing that's going on, at least in the world of sports, somebody's about to get rich, a lot richer than me. And Boston was one of the teams allegedly in on Juan Soto, but it appears that the New York teams have upped their offer over $700 million. So 710 to 730, as you see on the screen here, reported by Tom Erminski on the score. I don't see this, man. Do you?
And I know the numbers are skewed by some injuries he's had in the past, but I saw someone make the point that how are you throwing $700 million at a guy who's averaged 25 home runs a season for the last 5 years?
If he's not hitting 380.
Right. And look,
he's a 295 to 310 hitter on average.
I think Soto is one of the 5 best players in the game. Position players.
Might be top 3.
Yeah, he very well might be top 3.
Like Acuna
and
Shohei's number 1. I think he's 26. Or he'll be 26 to start the season, but still he's got 8 prime years. Right. Like if you give him a 10-year contract, you're not suffering through half of it.
Right. I'm not surprised that they're throwing north of $700 million after Ohtani set the market the way he did last offseason.
What Ohtani brings, though, Ohtani A, pitches. He B, brings the entire Asian market with him. I mean, Soto brings the Dominican market, but that's not as big as the Asian market as far as marketing goes.
And also, I just feel like even if we're just judging them as position players, if we take the pitching out of it, I just feel like Ohtani's objectively better than Soto.
50-50. And I don't mean that by like he's half as good. No, he was a 50-50 player. The one thing that Soto does, and coming from a Yankee fan, Soto makes that lineup a lot better. He hitting behind Aaron Judge, he makes Aaron Judge a more formidable hitter. Hitting in front of Giancarlo Stanton, he makes Stanton a bigger force, and you saw that in the playoffs. If the Yankees don't sign him, that's fine. They have to pivot almost, and they have to spread out some of the money they were going to give, and they almost have to get Burns and Fried. And I'm not saying that they print money. They could get Burns, Fried, and Soto if they wanted to. But they have to pivot to pitching. And having a rotation of Cole, Rodon, Heel, Fried, Burns, and you can go out and find a couple capable players. You do the whole Moneyball thing, like we're trying to replace Giambi. You can't replace Giambi. Let's replace him in the aggregate. You get guys like Santander or Hernandez. You have to get pitching then.
If Soto were to go to Boston, of course I'd like it, but Boston needs pitching. I mean, if Boston could have somehow landed Blake Snell, I would have been thrilled. I think he's due for like a Chris Sale like kind of resurgence.
Yeah, with a spring training, yeah. I don't know about Chris Sale level, but he's definitely I think Blake Snell might not be a one pitcher, but he's definitely a two. Or 1B. I don't think he's a top of the rotation ace number one guy, but he's not a 4 or 5 either.
I still think he has Cy Young talent left in that arm.
And that's not a hot take. It really isn't.
Yeah, I mean
you're not saying something wild and egregious like, Max Giamelli's going to lead the league in saves next year. Like, really?
How old's Snell?
32. I want to say 32. So if I say it with enough conviction, you'll believe me. Blake Snell.
You don't want to have the upward inflection in your voice. You don't.
Producer telling me 32.
Confident to go 32.
Producer in my ear said 32, so he's 32.
Oh, good. Good producer.
You can't give him 6 years though and expect to get 6 prime years.
Well,
you get 3 and you accept it. You like it, and he's probably more than capable the back end of that, but not Cy Young level.
It's tough to throw money at pitchers with the prevalence of arm injuries and pitch. You don't know how much you're getting, especially once they hit 30.
No, exactly, and with the Ohtani contract, where if he starts pitching next year, you start to watch the arm and things like that. But it's all monopoly money. I mean, I can't even fathom the $100 million contract that Kevin Brown got so long ago. You remember how wild that was? Tim, we're going to have $1 billion player someday in our lifetime. It's going to happen.
We're almost there. I mean, we're talking about, 3/4.
Ohtani and Betts are $1 billion together, right? Betts has to have a $300 million contract.
Yeah, and then look, throw Freddie Freeman in there. That's 3 guys who already, get you over $1 billion.
Absolutely amazing. Just shocking stuff. And the thing was, Soto had reportedly wanted to sign by the winter meetings. They start today in Dallas, so we'll see if the next couple days word comes out where Soto lines up and how many zeros are on that contract and which number is in front of them all. Speaking of odd numbers and odd birds, you sent me this, and I thought it was fake. I thought it was the Onion. What's going on with Rob Manfred? What is he trying to do? What is this?
He's trying to turn Major League Baseball into like a rock and jock softball game. Like every team's going to have to give Dan Cortez 1 at bat. The same way the Savannah Bananas do, the golden at bat, where you can bring someone off your bench and they make it like this big, almost like professional wrestling style thing, which works for the Savannah Bananas because they are essentially the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
Yes, exactly.
But he wants to.
Now, is it coming off the bench or is it out? I thought it was just out of order.
It's out of order. I was just saying, like, for instance, I saw when Savannah was playing in Philadelphia and they brought in Ryan Howard as their golden batter. Like he was wearing a mask and he unveiled himself to the Philly fans.
But that's just called a pinch hitter. That's fine.
Where, yeah, if it's like the 8th inning and you haven't used your golden at bat and say there are 2 on and your number 8 hitters due up, the Yankees can say, no, we want Aaron Judge. We want to use the golden at bat right now. That's essentially how it would work, and I think. Is this
going to be like WWF the cash in the briefcase? Does Aaron Boone have to run out to the mound with this golden ticket?
I wouldn't put anything past Manfred at this point. He's got ghost runners. He's got golden at bats.
Listen. The game has changed from when it started. We have a DH. It's fine. We have a 3-point shot in basketball. That's fine. We have a 2-point conversion in football. None of those essentially change the game itself. This changes a whole lot. I don't mind the ghost runner. Both teams get it. Do I think it's stupid? Yes, but that's fine.
This feels like if the NFL said, we want to make the game more exciting, each coach gets one down where they can bring a 12th defender on the field. It's essentially changing strategy and the way the game is played.
Exactly.
In a fundamental
way. To an extent, that's what the 3-point shot has done in basketball currently, but it took a long time to get there. Like the advent of the 3-point shot, you didn't start to see Steph Curry type threes for 40 years.
And that's a change that came about organically because like the Mike D'Antoni teams, they moneyballed the situation and said the best shot in basketball is the corner three.
Yeah.
And if you can shoot threes at a higher volume than your opponent, that means you're going to make more threes, and it's going to, statistically speaking, give you a better chance to win. Yeah. So at least that came about in an organic way, and not the league saying
it wasn't,
every team has to shoot at least 30 threes.
It wasn't forced round peg, square hole type, so if you look at some of the other changes Major League Baseball has made just recently, I wasn't a huge fan of the pitch clock when it came in. And it's only because of the ramifications. You like that?
I just put two and two together.
The pitch clock, I was really afraid was going to have an impact on a game because in spring training it did. The walk because of the time violation forced in a run that won a game. And I remember asking, like, dude, what happens if this happens in a playoff game?
What if Game 7 of the World Series gets decided because the pitch clock goes off and a runner on third's sent home?
I don't mind not seeing Nomar Garciaparra play with his batting gloves for 45 seconds every pitch. We've gotten back to what baseball was in the 80s time-wise, I'm okay with it. Where this gets kind of raw in my head is every change in baseball has seemingly gone to help the offense. Bigger bases, make the pitcher work faster. We can't have bullpen pitchers pitching to one batter anymore. They've got to face three. Every rule has been designed to try to increase scoring, when honestly I can watch a 2-1 game or a 1-0 game and feel the same way that I felt in the second half of the Michigan-Ohio State game.
Right, but that's not specific to Major League Baseball because almost every rule change has been designed to help offense in football. And same in basketball, where they got rid of the hand check and they, made changes to the illegal defense.
We're not wrong.
So, leagues are courting casual fans, and offense brings in casual fans.
The long ball, you're not wrong.
But this is pandering to casual fans.
It's video gaming. You know what? I just downloaded a new game for my Switch. You remember Baseball Stars back in the day?
Sure. Yeah.
Best part of Baseball Stars, you could make your own team. Like, you were my pitcher and, Dan was my first baseman or whatever. And
right.
So there's a baseball game for the Switch called Super Mega Baseball. And they're right now on version 4. So I just downloaded version 4. I got a good deal on it. It's a $60 game. I got it for $5. Yay, shopper me. And just like I do with every other game like that, where you can change your team, put all my buddies on the team. You're my ace pitcher. Ooh. And you're like 6'8", 205, 99s across the board, because that's how I entertain myself.
Am I a righty or a lefty?
Righty.
Okay.
My buddy Matt Miller is the lefty.
Gotcha.
I'm the center fielder. Dan plays first. Jason Macko plays second. A lot of my buddies are on the team, and I just play against the computer. And I started to set my difficulty level up a little bit because the first game I played, I think I won 46-0, And that gets a little ridiculous. But that's kind of what I can see Manfred's ideas being. Like, we're going to make this into a video game where you can just do whatever you want with your lineup. And I'm not a baseball purist. I don't want to go. I like the DH. I don't think it's entertaining to see, your average, like, Clark Schmidt batting. I don't want to see that.
I always prefer.
But I also don't want to see this.
I always preferred National League Baseball just because of the strategy of, do you let the pitcher bat again? Do you double switch? Do you bunt?
Can't double switch anymore now.
Well, but I don't mind the DH. I was never one of those guys when it was DH in the AL and no DH in the NL where I had like such a strong preference. I was like, both are fine.
I think this might have been just Manfred monologuing to himself. I don't know how serious this is. I hope it's not, because this it creates a real situation about how dumb can we get? And guess what? We can get pretty dumb, and we're going to get pretty dumb in a little bit.
I've been looking forward to this ever since we talked about it.
But before we get dumb, we're going to get smart. And seasonally, it's everybody's favorite time of the week, Soup and Meatballs draft time. And according to the calendar, Christmas is 17 days away, and there's a couple things that we can talk about holiday season wise, and one of them is movies. We're going movies today. We're going to draft our favorite Christmas holiday movies. So on the way home from PAX, I had forgotten what we were going to draft, and I thought we were drafting Christmas songs at one point, and I heard the most ridiculous Christmas song in the car. And I think maybe we can draft these next week. So I'm going to share. I'll send you a text with this video. You have to watch this video.
Okay.
Because I don't think I'm not drafting it. If you want to draft it next week, by all means do it. But that might be something we tease for next week. But movie time. I guess I need my randomizers. So here you go. We have a full deck of cards.
Okay.
And let me know when to stop. Stop right there. Okay, so there's our card. I don't even know what it is.
I've gone
first pick in the draft goes to.
I've gone Wesley Snipes every week. I'm gonna go Wesley Snipes again. Always bet on black. Damn it, Wesley.
Oh, dude, this might be 3 weeks in a row I get the top pick. We almost should make a rule that you get the top pick next week, just because 3 in a row seems ridiculous. I made my list. I have.
Did you check it twice?
What? Yeah, I love that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 9. Okay. So it's a good thing I get the first pick here.
No.
And this should be no surprise to someone my age.
Before we start, I do have a question.
I have an answer.
Do TV specials, like hour-long TV specials, count, or are we only counting like movies?
Oh no, yeah.
Movies?
Oh, TV specials count, yeah.
Okay, good, because I have some on my list.
Oh yeah, yeah, rock and roll. My number one, I don't think should be a surprise to anybody my age. This is as classic a Christmas movie as there possibly is. Russ, you can't see the lines. I'm taking Christmas Vacation.
That was also my number one.
And your age, you Gen X, anybody who says anything different, they don't know what they're talking about.
And I can remember, like, I have distinct memories of like coming over to your house, like when I was like 12 or 13, and you had the VHS. Like we would watch that like every, maybe even more than once.
Yeah, the big memory I have is our 10th grade. We took our girlfriends out to whatever restaurant that was on Poplar Street. I can't think of that.
Oh my! It
wasn't the Oval on. Oh,
Martinis.
Darn. Okay, so now this is the number of hits in the head. 1994, Christmas in '94, whatever lounge it was. But it's like a fancy place. Like, we kind of put a polo shirt on. I don't think we wore a tie, but like we got dressed up. We took the girls out, and then we came back to my house and watched Christmas Vacation. It was a great time.
It was great.
That is it was at 1989.
It was.
I watched it with Derek last year, and while it holds up, it shows its age, but I'm still wildly entertained by it.
Yeah, it's for my money certainly the funniest Christmas movie. I'm not the biggest Chevy Chase guy, but I love him in that movie. And the it, the one line that always kills me, and it kind of flies under the radar maybe, but it's when the whole family, like Clark calls the whole family out to look at the lights on the house and it's not going on. And his
Beautiful.
father-in-law goes, "Kids, I hope you see what an incredible waste of time this was." And his
That
daughter
was
goes,
the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law says that.
"Okay." But then
The better under the radar line from the father-in-law.
That's where I'm going. When the daughter says, "Grandpa, he worked really hard on this." And so do washing machines.
Yes, there it is. So do washing machines. I love it. Yeah, that's amazing.
By the way, I saw that in theaters alone. My parents let me go to the Churchill Cinema. I was 10 years old. And
1989, I wouldn't have known you yet.
No, we didn't meet till what? 90.
Not 90, 91.
Yeah, sixth grade.
Cool year.
I cannot believe I was allowed to see that movie, let alone by myself.
It was PG, wasn't it?
I mean, there is some implied nudity at the swimming pool.
Hey, Judy and Greg don't know that by watching the trailers.
Yeah,
it's
very
PG.
true.
It's cool. Timmy will be fun.
That was my number one. So
I'm sorry.
I'm going to go with my number two, which is I'm finding to be maybe a bit of a divisive pick, but it's a movie that I unapologetically love, and it's Elf.
So Elf was. I didn't have mine ranked. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That might have been 6 for my list. But
okay,
how is this? How is this a divisive movie?
Just some people seem to have a real dislike of Will Ferrell, and so they just don't like that movie.
Any reason? Like he's a USC fan, so now that they're in the Big Ten, he can scratch it. But
I've had people tell me that like he's too loud or like he lacks subtlety or whatever. But I find him hilarious, and especially in that movie. That's
a good. You know what? So the emotional guy in me, at the very end when the sled is in Times Square and you need to have Christmas spirit to get it going, and the I guess the love interest of Elf, the female lead, she's like, Zoe Deschanel. I have to get these people singing, and when she starts and everybody, like, that kind of gets me a little bit, you know. Yeah. This season, the December, the Christmas season, the feels are different than they are in March. Like March feels like this is never going to stop snowing. Where like in Christmas, oh, the snow is here, yay! That kind of stuff, like that gets me in the feels. I feel like any great Christmas movie has to have a certain level of schmaltz to it. Like it has to be a little schmaltzy, a little corny. And Elf certainly qualifies, but it earns it because Will Ferrell's performance, he's just so earnest that you would get that he would win these people over eventually. Just based on sheer, what's the word? Like he keeps coming and coming. He's just nonstop. Relentlessness. That's it. Just relentless Christmas spirit. Santa, I know him. It's a product of putting maple syrup on spaghetti. Also, the second most behind Christmas Vacation, most quotable Christmas movie between, you sit on a throne of lies. You smell of beef and cheese. And then like I don't know his name. Who's the dad? James Caan. James Caan, who's also the football coach in the movie The Program. And Sonny Corleone. He's this grouchy as all heck Scrooge's character, where like there's a Scrooge element that he's just fighting for his job instead, and they write children's books. And you have this hard, gruff guy leading this team of trying to write a book about the vegetables or whatever, and they bring in the guy from Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing. Elf has an absolutely stacked cast because you have James Caan as the dad, Mary Steenburgen as the mom. The evil boss, James Caan's evil boss, is Michael Lerner. Andy Richter's in it, Amy Sedaris. Like they just loaded it with like really good actors and good comedy people.
So Elf as a number one, totally fits. No complaints here. My number two, I'm gonna take a different approach at a Christmas movie because this doesn't have the feels. This has, and you have to watch the unrated version. This has all of the raunchiness and immaturity as any movie can have. I go with a movie that Jen and I watch every year and just laugh at. Bad Santa or Badder Santa.
That's a good pick.
Bad Santa is Billy Bob Thornton at his just irreverent best, scummy best. Yeah,
just a real
exactly.
Scumbag. Just a drunk, womanizing. Like even when he warms.
Not womanizing. He hustles big and tall. He's not womanizing like you would think. He hustles big and tall.
And Lauren Graham.
I think she hustled. I think she tried to get him. That's because Santa does it for her.
And that's another movie that's stacked with just great comedy people. Like when you throw in John Ritter and Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac in that movie is awesome. I love Bernie, and he's not even like a supporting actor. He's like role player. But I can't say some of the lines that are like my favorite of him because we're live and broadcasting. But
yeah,
when John Ritter comes to him and says, he said the word blank stick in front of the children, and Bernie Mac is sitting there eating like, so blank stick, huh? That it? He's great in that movie.
Bad Santa
and Bad Santa 2, I watched it. It was fine. Nothing like Bad Santa 1. It didn't even make my list.
Bad Santa didn't make my list, and yet it's a movie that I really, really enjoy. In hindsight, maybe because I was feeling kind of like corny, and Bad Santa doesn't necessarily have those Christmas feels.
It's a movie that Jen and I watch every year, so that's part of the. Jen and I are like, so when are we putting the kids to bed so we can watch this?
Right.
Because neither one of them are old enough yet.
So with my number two, it's another one that's divisive just because it's so. Everyone's seen it 100 times, but I still watch it every year and I still love it. It's A Christmas Story.
Okay. Listen, I love the whole concept of the TNT TBS conglomerate putting it on all day.
It's better than watching a Yule log burn in a fireplace. Do you remember when TV stations used to do that?
I will watch it in bits and pieces. I'll watch it like TikTok form all day on Christmas. So Christmas Eve, I'm cooking with my dad, so the TV's not on. But by Christmas Day, after we do the what have you, I'll flip back and forth and I'll see the entire movie, but in bits and pieces. I remember the one year I as a present, I recorded it for you and I took the commercials off.
That's right.
And that was the first time I think I had watched it from beginning to end. Yeah, Ralphie's a little whiny, but it's set in the 1950s, so
earlier 40s, or possibly even the late 30s. They don't give the year, but when he's in the department store to see Santa, there are people walking around as Dorothy the Tin Man, and Wizard of Oz came out in 39.
Okay, yeah, so let's call it that. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I remember this being one of your favorite movies, and I think the divisiveness comes from the 24-hour marathon. People are like, "Oh,
absolutely,
it's enough." I'm fine with that.
I also think I like it because when I was a little kid, I looked a lot like Ralphie.
I could see
my hair was really light, and I had the glasses. I definitely had a resemblance to Peter Billingsley, who also is in Elf. He was a producer on it. He was a producer on Elf, and he has like a little cameo. I forget where he is in Elf, but yeah.
I don't have any. The Christmas Story to me, it feels like more of a TV show where there's like, this is this part, this is this part, and this is this part. Like there's it's segmented really well. Like this is him at school with Flick and the pole, and this is him at home with all the letters and the radio show, and it really it does encapsulate the entire season well, I think. Oh.
I have to. This will tie into the Juan Soto thing, but before we were on, I was looking on Twitter to see if there was any Juan Soto news, and the one tweet that made me laugh was in all caps. It said "Breaking Juan Soto news," and then it was like 8 returns where you had to scroll down, and then it said "Be sure to drink your Ovaltine."
That's great. That's great. The joys of having one bathroom, and you're sitting there and you're decoding, and this kid's like, "Dude, I gotta go."
Yeah, and
your house in Hazleton, your house growing up had 2 of them.
Yeah,
mine before I moved only had 1, so I felt that.
We only had 1 in New Jersey.
In New Jersey, okay. I mean that makes sense. Like when you're that age, but good deal. Did you see the second Christmas Story, like the direct to HBO movie?
No. Maybe I'll check it out.
I think I saw it either last year or 2 years ago. It was okay. It was fine.
Was it?
Yeah. A Christmas Story 2, in comparison to A Christmas Story 1, in my opinion, better than Bad Santa 2 in comparison to Bad Santa 1.
Oh wow, okay.
But the bar's low. It entertained me more.
I've never seen Bad Santa. Is Billy Bob Thornton? Did he come back for Bad Santa 2?
Oh, he had to have. Oh my goodness, come on! If they didn't have him, it would be awful.
Yeah.
No, I just the storyline was they went to like Santa training and they met just dumb. But the Christmas Story 2, Ralphie has grown up and now he's trying to put on the perfect Christmas for his kids, and like as a dad now, like you get that again, it gets you in the feels a little bit.
Okay.
Because that's kind of what you try to do. So good call, number 2. My number 3. So I think that we can have a lot of different variations of the story, and my favorite variation of the story is Scrooged with Bill Murray. It's a Christmas Carol, but it's the Bill Murray Scrooged version. I'm taking Scrooged.
I thought that actually might be your number 2 when you said about like, this isn't like your typical Christmas story. It's a little darker. And I thought you were going Scrooged.
It's a Christmas Carol though, essentially.
Right. Yeah. And look, we know your love for Bill Murray.
Unending.
Yes. He's sort of the anti-Chevy Chase for me, where I only like Chevy Chase in very specific movies. Bill Murray's great in everything.
Bill Murray crashed a wedding a couple years ago, and he was entertaining there.
I love the story.
The rando Bill Murray stuff I need more of that in my life.
I love the story where it was like 10 o'clock at like a Wendy's where no one was there, and he just walked up to someone's table, took 2 fries off their plate and said, "No one will ever believe you," and walked away.
Yeah, but the other part about that hits me, my former career in TV, the Scrooge is a TV producer, and the behind the scenes look at that business was kind of neat, and the whole concept of doing a live broadcast on Christmas Eve of the Christmas Story, they had like the story within the story, and the ghosts were awesome. So the Ghost of Christmas Past was just so irreverent and so awesome. The Ghost of Christmas Present, and I can't think of the actress's name, but when she whacks him with a toaster, what the underrated line in that? Oh, the blank hit me with a toaster. Sometimes I wake up feeling like that.
I'd never thought of it until this moment, but Scrooged was a bit of a dry run for Groundhog Day, where it's this cold-hearted character who works in TV, who learns to become a better man. Even though it's not Scrooged isn't Harold Ramis, but it feels like it's a dry run for that character type for Bill Murray.
Good comparison, and the love interest females have a similar look and feel to them.
Yeah, because it's Karen Allen in Scrooged, Marion Ravenwood from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and she's so much better than Andy. I do not like Andy McDowell.
I don't disagree. If I had to rank them, they'd be 1, 2.
Yeah, yeah. Scrooged is another one that didn't make my list, but another movie that I enjoy. So that's a pretty strong pick. I'm gonna go down a little on my list, and I'm gonna go into the TV special portion of my list because it's one that was fresh in my mind because I was texting a friend about it on Friday because she had told me about how Rudolph was on NBC on Friday, and I was like, well, for my money, the best animated Christmas special is A Charlie Brown Christmas.
That made my list.
I love the jazz score. I love that sad little tree. I love how melancholy it is. Like it's not. It's a very sad, bittersweet story for most of it until they learn to just love their pathetic little tree. And Linus, recites the biblical story of Christmas. It's very funny, very earnest, and I watch it every year.
That's an every year thing too. Yeah, it's something. I'm lucky that we show it in school. Like on Christmas Eve, that's one of the things I'll put on the screen. So that's where I watch it. What I like the Linus and Lucy, that song that means peanuts. That means Charlie Brown. For the longest time, forever, that was my mother's ringtone when she would call. So like now I can't see that without thinking of her, which is sad and melancholy in its own little way. I don't know if you'd call it that's a Christmas special. Is that I think it's an hour long. I don't know if it's a movie, but I'll certainly allow it because it was on my list. Yeah. So, dude, my number 4. Now I'm looking at a list of 5 possibles because neither A Christmas Story nor this one we're taking. My goodness, I think that'll be safe. And I think, dude, there's 3 that really belong here now. And I will take the one with number 4. I'll take another one that Jen and I watch habitually every year. And I don't have much to say other than it's just one of those, we see it every year. So it's our wrapping present thing. Love Actually.
Okay.
And in a world where, it's easy to just be miserable and just angry, at the beginning of that movie, when the voiceover says, if you really look around and you look hard, love actually is everywhere. And that line gets me in the feels because it's that time of year. In December, you can see it. In March, when everybody's grumpy in the snow, you can't. But yeah, that whole the opening monologue, that's what gets me for that.
And it's funny, Love Actually is an example for me of how we can't enjoy anything anymore as a culture, because in the last 5 years the conversation's been about Love Actually is a really problematic movie. It's why? The guy with the signs at the end, he's totally love bombing that woman, and it's
the mistreatment of the misogyny of the prime minister, or
right, yeah,
or the president in that case.
Yeah, and it's sometimes people do bad things in movies. Sometimes things are what would be really super weird in real life. It reminds me of that episode of The Office where Andy thinks it would be romantic to give Erin the gifts from the 12 Days of Christmas, and it becomes this horrifying ordeal for her. So no, if love actually happened in real life, of course it would be problematic, but it's heightened reality. It's a movie.
I like it when the author who is trying to write a book is on vacation and his helper, his cleaner or whatever, doesn't speak the same language, and she picks up the paperweight and all the papers go flying into the lake, and she goes jumping in. And he's like, what are you doing? It's a piece of crap. And she's like, this better not be a piece of crap. Like, it is. But then he goes out, he learns her language to try to talk to her. I think that's a nice gesture. The whole Alan Rickman cheating on his wife thing, like that gets upsetting at the end, and you feel bad for her character. But then she takes comfort with her brother, who's the prime minister, who's kind of a sleaze in his own way. I could see the political ramifications of a movie like that in 2024, but it's still something Jen and I watch. Jen likes Hugh Grant's dance.
Oh, sure. And you talk about another movie with an absolutely stacked cast. You know, Emma Thompson, Alan Rickman, Hugh Grant, Keira Knightley, Martin Freeman's in it. Like
three separate stories that kind of tie in somehow, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the best part of that movie, I just thought of it now. The awful, awful song. If You Really Love Christmas, with the guy who plays the guy trying to be number one, the musician, Billy Martin, not Billy Martin. I can't think of his name because I'm a terrible person. The musical aspect of, will this song be number one? That's so funny to me.
And, you know, it's funny now that I'm thinking, I don't know if I've ever seen Love Actually from beginning to end. I've seen it in bits and pieces, kind of like You Had Been with A Christmas Story. Maybe I might have to give that a watch, because I know it's streaming on one of my. I'm sure I could find it somewhere.
It's got to be better than, you know, Panthers Eagles.
Well,
by the second half when that game's over, put Keira Knightley and Hugh Grant on.
I'd be happy to watch Saquon run for another 250.
There you go.
So I'm on my number 4. Love Actually.
You're number 4.
Okay. I'm gonna go. Boy, I've got some real bangers on this list.
It's a hard pick now. It was hard for me.
I'm gonna go with a sentimental favorite because I was at just the right age to see this movie. I saw it with my brothers and some friends at the old Majestic Theater, now the Cinema and Draft House in West Hazleton. And I think it's a sentimental favorite for a lot of people of our generation. I'm going with Home Alone.
Okay. I never saw it in theaters. The first time I watched it was with Jen and Derek.
Okay.
And that might have been like 5 years ago.
When he scares the pizza boy with the old, like, you know, film noir movie with the "keep the change, you filthy animal," 10-year-old Tim Hare thought that was the funniest thing I had ever seen. And like
40-year-old Max was like, eh. I had seen some of the highlights of the movie even without seeing it, that stuff, and
right.
Marv getting hit in the face with a paint can, which if you look at the physics behind that, I think people did like the Mythbusters on what would actually happen if you caught a paint can going at that velocity and that angle. It would have done a lot more damage.
Yeah, it's possibly a fractured skull, certainly a concussion. We're talking broken nose, broken teeth. He's 8 years old in that movie. Can you imagine your 8-year-old concocting traps like that? You know, basically 7, making a blowtorch.
Maria's going to be 8 next July, so we're talking next Christmas.
Ugh.
No. We were just talking about this movie on the drive home from PAX yesterday, and my first thought was, they have so many people at the house, but how many people are at that house at the beginning? Is there only like 13?
Yeah, it's like 13 or 14.
So there's we'll call it 14 people. They ordered 12 pizzas.
Yeah.
That's almost a pizza a person. And they don't have a cheese pizza for Kevin because the nerdy kid ate all of it? Come on. That might be the most unbelievable part of that movie.
So that's where you can no longer suspend your disbelief.
That's the line. Like, so Marvin and the other guy, what's the other guy's name? The wet
Harry.
guys. Marv and Harry show up and they're like, oh, this doorknob is kind of warm. I'll just keep holding it. Or they open the door like, oh, look at all that ice on the floor. We should probably, keep it. No, it's the pizza at the beginning.
By the way, do you know how old? So Daniel Stern is, the taller of the two wet bandits,
Barf, yeah.
the non-Joe Pesci one. Do you know how old he was while making that movie? Because when I was a kid, I was like, "That's an adult. Like that is a grown man."
Wow. So was he like 22?
Well, I believe he's 33, but he looks 50. he looked like he could have been like the father of a college-age kid when I saw that as a 10-year-old.
Arn Anderson of Christmas actors.
Yeah.
When Arn Anderson was born, he was 36.
Yeah. Arn Anderson came out of the womb looking like a middle-aged gym teacher.
Yeah. So 33, and that. Yeah, he doesn't wear it well. Wow.
Yeah.
So have you seen the Home Alone series? Because now there's like 3 and 4.
I've seen the first 2. I didn't see the third one with a different kid though.
I think
I kind of aged out
film
of it.
noir. The film noir part of Home Alone 2, I think, is better than 1. When he's talking to Tim Curry, the weird, creepy maitre d'
or whatever,
the concierge of the hotel. I think that conversation or that dual script, I think that was funnier for me, at least.
I also, because when I was a kid, I just assumed that was a real movie, and it wasn't until I was older that I was like, no, they filmed their own little film noir. It's got a perfect title too, Angels with Dirty Faces. That's perfect.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, Home Alone, not a surprise. It wasn't on my list. Excuse me, but it would probably make people's top 10 lists. So nothing out of the ordinary. So I'm down to 2, and I'm going to feel really bad about leaving one of them off. But I think the one I'm going to take is just so unique in what it brings in a couple ways. And the one I'm leaving off, or the 2 I'm leaving off, we'll talk about here in a little bit about why. The one I'm taking it's not a Christmas movie, but it's a Christmas season movie, and it's animated, and it's musical, and it's hilarious, and it's probably irreverent, but sign me up for 8 Crazy Nights.
When you said not a Christmas movie, I thought you were going Die Hard before you said animated.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that discussion. That's whatever.
Yeah, Die Hard, and I love Die Hard, and I do consider Die Hard a quasi Christmas movie, but it didn't make my list. I've never seen 8 Crazy Nights.
So that I hadn't either. And just one random day a couple years ago, there's nothing to do on a Sunday or whatever, and it was on one of the free movie channels that I got with my cable that I don't get anymore. And I was like, you know what? This thing says like 93 minutes or something. I'm going to give this a shot. And it was Bad Santa level irreverent, but it's Adam Sandler doing music. Like when he came out with the Hanukkah song saying we have all these Christmas carols, but we don't have the Hanukkah song. It's like we have all these Christmas movies, we don't have a Hanukkah movie. And I think you would like it, I bet, because it deals with like YMCA level basketball.
Okay.
Like so it reminded me of like YMCA level basketball or PAL basketball back in our day, if you remember that.
Sure.
And it's a Christmas Carol style movie where there's the protagonist is a real jerk and he has to come around, and it's a good time, I think.
So I also have some unfortunate cuts on my list. So before I give you my number 5, I'll give you some of the ones that maybe didn't quite make the cut. Muppet Christmas Carol.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
The animated Grinch, not the Jim Carrey Grinch, but like the old 1960s with Boris Karloff.
That's a staple for Maria every year. We've already seen it 4 times.
One that I really think of because I watched it with my grandmother a lot when I was little, the original Miracle on 34th Street. But another one that I also watched with my grandmother that does make the cut, It's a Wonderful Life. And you talk about dark. The movie starts with Jimmy Stewart basically being like, well, that's it for me. I guess I got to go jump off this bridge now. That's like in the first 20 minutes of the movie where he's like, "Yep, well, I'm done for."
So Jen loves this movie,
Me
so
too.
she is totally with you on this pick. I am less of a fan. I will sit and watch it with her. I have no qualms with watching it, but if I could pick between that or any of my five, I'm taking my five, obviously. This ranks, if you're looking at classic Christmas movies, this probably in the top five for most, serious movie people. A Miracle on 34th Street, that kind of level of Christmas movie. Going to IUP, Jimmy Stewart grew up in Indiana.
Yeah.
Like that was all over the downtown, that kind of stuff.
His parents owned a hardware store there. Because when he won his Oscar, he gave it to his parents to display in their hardware store.
They have the museum up there as well. So total classic pick. I have nothing to add further to that other than they kind of remade it a little bit with the movie that I had looked at, The Family Man, with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage kind of went back and saw, what would my life be like if I didn't go corporate and I married this person.
Yeah, and Don Cheadle's like his Clarence.
Don Cheadle's like, dude, this is just a vision or a glimpse. And so, yeah.
You talk about a Christmas movie that has that emotional moment, but when he goes running down the street and he's just, "Merry Christmas, everybody!" That's so fantastic. It's so corny in such a wonderful way.
The ones I skipped, one that I hadn't seen until, Jen and I were looking for movies to watch with Derek, mostly around 2020, I think, during that Christmas, The Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Oh, sure.
That's an interesting take on, what Santa does.
I feel like I'm living some sort of version of the Santa Claus in that I just keep getting inexplicably fatter. I'll have to ask my doctor, is this possibly a the Santa Claus situation? And she'll be like, "No, you just
beard,
pork chops."
The Christmas Carol I went with, I have two versions now because I thought if somebody was going to take the Christmas Carol, I was going to say, look, we have to have different versions of it because the Muppet Christmas Carol is cool. I like Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mr. Magoo is funny to me, but the really hard cut that I had to make. This is one of my favorite TV movies, and when you took the TV movie, I didn't know if you were going to go here or not. Have you ever seen the Vanessa Williams A Diva's Christmas Carol?
That's another one where I haven't seen it start to finish, but
I love that. If I ever see that on, I can't not watch it because
it's kind of like The Devil Wears Prada and A Christmas Carol, kind of meet in the middle a little bit.
If at the very end, the Ghost of Christmas Future is VH1 behind the music. I thought that right there is so cool. And that's what did it for me. And Vanessa Williams is a female Scrooge, so you don't see that. That's unique in that respect. She is so miserable. Oh, she is a complete Scrooge. Oh, and she does a great job. Great job with it.
So
that was the TV movie I picked.
It seems like you have a real soft spot for a very specific genre of movie where miserable people have their hearts warmed.
Is that my list, really?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Eight
Christmas
Crazy
Vacation.
Nights.
The Christmas Vacation is the bad guy gets kidnapped by Eddie at the end of it. I guess these are 10 good movies, though, I think, and I don't think you could go wrong here.
Yeah, I plan on having a few double feature Christmas movie nights leading up to Christmas.
There you go. So check out some of mine, and I've seen all of the ones on your list, but there will be multiple viewings of a lot of them, I think, going forward. So good list day or good draft day. The list, though, let's go back to our discussion on Rob Manfred the Clown. This is your idea. Let the people know. What are we doing here? This is great.
I pitched to you that we should come up with our 5 ideas to essentially ruin baseball the way that Rob Manfred is. Now,
I was worried about this. I'm like, I'm not going to be as creative or as funny as Tim is, but I came up with some weird stuff. I think, I came up with 8. So I'm going to give you all 8 because I'm a lunatic.
I tried to have mine have one foot in reality, that they're at least somewhat.
Yeah, mine too. Mine could totally happen.
And
whether they should or not is another story.
And I will say, I was going to bring this up before, but an idea that actually is a good idea that I'm surprised Major League Baseball doesn't do, the same way that we said the NFL has Thanksgiving and the NBA has Christmas. Why does Major League Baseball not build around the 4th of July?
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's yeah, I have that would be a good change. Make a market.
You could have like a triple header on ESPN, and in between like the second and third game, you could reveal the results of All-Star voting or reveal the All-Star rosters.
Yeah, cool. I also don't know why. I like how the NFL has the Super Bowl winner opening up on a Thursday night. Like, hey, listen, we're going to celebrate you. Why they don't do that? It always opens, I think, in Cincinnati because of they were the first major league team, but I think that's a tradition that people in Cincinnati don't care.
Also,
let's open in Los Angeles and have a big celebration of what the Dodgers did.
Also inexplicable that they start in Japan when it's 4 a.m. on the East Coast. But what a way to just cut yourself off at the knees.
Exactly. So scheduling wise, I agree. I think July 4th would be a great potential celebration day. But so what you tell us, what I have mine kind of ranked from what I think is the dumbest to what I think is the most funny. So however you want to rank your top 5, what's number 5 or one of your rules?
So my first one, and I'm stealing this from Premier League Soccer, relegation.
Okay.
Chicago White Sox, you don't want to be competitive, you lose your team for a year. And now guess what?
International League.
No, they go down to AAA, and now the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs get promoted to Major League Baseball.
Okay.
It's a logistical nightmare. It's not realistic, but it would sure keep teams from tanking
If the schedule comes out, you just do a control search for Chicago White Sox, insert Iron Pigs.
But even just can you imagine Allentown becoming a Major League Baseball city? I doubt they have the infrastructure to support that.
Well, we're going to see what kind of infrastructure minor league teams have for the A's and the Rays this year.
Well, that's true. I mean, the A's are playing in Sacramento?
Yeah. So I think that's
the Allentown of the West.
That's fair. Yeah. And so my rules, I think I went more with in-game, not like an entire season. And when I came up with my initial list, I could only come up with 4. So my number 5 was like, well, we'll do something dumb here. And it is allowing the golden ticket for hitters, but they're only allowed to bat out of order if the batter comes to the plate singing the grandpa version of I've Got a Golden Ticket while wearing the old-timey pajamas, and they have to have a microphone so everybody can hear it.
And the manager should have to wear the Willy Wonka, not just the hat, but the full, coat and tails.
Ensemble, yeah. So that was the only way you could use the golden ticket, if you came out and sang Grandpa Joe.
I like that.
That was the dumbest one I came up with. I came up with better ones on the ride home from PAX then.
I will go with one that is an in-game rule change, where when the managers present their lineup cards to the umpires, there will be almost like the NBA draft lottery. There will be a drum with ping pong balls numbered 1 through 9. The umpire spins it, takes out a ball, and whatever number corresponds to whoever in the lineup, they'll pick 3 balls. So say numbers 2, 7, and 9 come up. The 2nd, 7th, and 9th batters get to use aluminum bats.
Okay.
They'll just be ripping missiles down the third base line, swinging aluminum. I love it.
You know what's incredibly funny about this? My number 2 rule that I had in order. I'm going to read this. Once per game, a manager can designate one of his 7, 8, 9 hitters to use an aluminum bat for 1 at bat. You made it such that I don't know if I want Aaron Judge swinging an aluminum bat. That's a safety hazard.
Can you imagine Gary Sheffield
No.
ripping missiles.
Oh, I wouldn't.
He'd kill a third base coach.
I was gonna say, if I was the third base coach, I would be in the stands. And the fencing that they have now, they have the netting up. That's not enough. Oh, Sheffield would go right through that.
He swung at the ball like it cheated on his sister. Like he was the angriest hitter I've ever seen. Him and Albert Bell.
Absolutely. But yeah, so a pair of aluminum bats. I like your ping pong ball mini draft though.
Yeah, a little fun.
Because that would build excitement within the stands. The broadcast, they could put like the graphics up. That's good stuff. So both of our second rules have aluminum bats. Not bad.
My third one is not an in-game; it's an off-season rule, where every off-season, every player becomes an unrestricted free agent, and it just becomes a mad square. You just throw money at everyone, like you're putting together like an old school rotisserie team or something like that. Only 1-year contracts, no multi-year contracts.
That's not bad. We could have an entire show on what that would do to the economics of baseball,
or just how it would shift the power structure division by division on a yearly basis. Ownership changes, and like suddenly Bill Gates owns the A's, and he's like, "No, I'm gonna spend $5 billion and put the best team in the world on the field."
Dude, that's amazing. That puts the rest of my list to shame, because I want to sit here and just marinate on that for like another hour. What time is it? It's 11:45. We got time. Wow, that's phenomenal. 1-year contract. So like if I were the ruler of the world and made all the rules of anything, I would say that, based on economic structures, no one anywhere in the country is allowed to earn more than $5 million in 1 year, because if you can't live on $5 million, then you're a horrible person. And then, the socialists in me spread some of the wealth around to the people that are living on $10,000 a year. Like, but this is like, if you don't put a salary cap, let people go absolutely bonkers for 1 year. That's crazy.
Go nuts, right?
I love it. I love it. So my number 3 is in-game. So all of mine are in-game, obviously. So number 3, this is a situation where I looked at all of the rules benefit the offense. So here's one that would benefit the defense. The pitching team, so that's the defensive team, at any point in the game can choose to give the offensive team a 4th out. Every 4th out takes away an out in the 9th inning of that game. So if you get like 3 up, 3 down in like the 2nd, 4th, and 5th, and you give them the 4th out and you still get that 4th out, they don't get a 9th inning. Okay. So you're still getting 27 outs, but you're spreading it around. Because I used to think to myself, what would happen if like the visiting team just got 27 straight outs, and then the home team might only need 1 run to win the game, right? Or 2 runs to win the game. Like, what would that look like? That would be pretty stupid, because you can't have a pitcher throwing 90 pitches in an inning. But if a pitcher has a good inning, like maybe a 12 pitch, 3 up, 3 down, we're feeling good. We'll give you a 4th batter right now.
I've got to be honest. Some of these ideas to me are just clearly better than the Golden Net.
They're not that bad. Well, some of them get bad for me. Don't worry.
But my next 2 are so stupid.
So 4th out. I'm going there.
Okay, so I'm going with for number 4, because it seems like the game, they're trying to speed up the game. They're trying to, keep away from having like these 17-inning marathon extra inning games. Let's just get rid of extra innings altogether. If it's tied after 9, each team gets to designate 1 player to put on an inflatable sumo suit. And whoever wins the sumo match, whichever team's player wins, that is the winner of the game.
That's so minor league, because they do that up in Scranton. So, all right, on the Yankees, I'm going to pick Aaron Judge,
right? Or possibly a sausage race. I'm open to variations on this. We could have them put on sausage costumes and run the warning track.
Who's the Red Sox sumo guy that you're picking?
Maybe Devers.
Is he a big guy?
He's.
Or is he a quick guy? You put the quick guy on there and hope to outmaneuver the other guy.
Right. He's like sneaky strong, but he's not like overly bulky. I think like the same way that you see like sometimes like a grand sumo champion who's like 200 pounds because he's got quick feet.
Yeah,
I'm going with that
that's
principle.
all right. Again, better than the golden ticket so far. We
Not
haven't
that
gotten
bad.
too ridiculous. The number fourth that I picked. This is another thing that potentially benefits the defense, and it's based on your lineup order. Every time there's a home run hit, based on where you are in the order, you have a certain amount of time to run the bases. So if you're hitting 1 through 4, you only have 15 seconds. And if you don't get around, it's not a home run. You might get a triple. At the 15-second mark, that's where you are. And if you're like halfway, if you didn't hit a base, you go back. But if you're batting 5 through 7, you get 20 seconds because, probably a lesser hitter. And players who hit 8th or 9th, they get 25 seconds. So does that change the strategy of where I'm putting Aaron Judge and Juan Soto in my lineup?
Right.
Because I don't want them sprinting around the bases. But it gives the defense a little bit of you gave up a home run. Run, monkeys, run. And,
It definitely affects lineup strategy. And even like not just who you put where in the lineup, but who you even start necessarily. It would certainly like favor a lineup of like fast guys over, just a bunch of boppers.
I think Shohei's probably fine.
Yeah,
but if he's batting first, he's got 15 seconds. I don't think he can make it around the bases in 15 seconds.
No, that's a pretty tall order. So I'll tell you one of my rejected ideas because it was another tiebreaker idea.
I have 8 ideas, so you don't have to reject any of them. Just pop it in. It's the best part of the show, I think. I love this.
So this one is also sort of inspired by the minor leagues, where if we have a tie for the division or a wild card or something like that after 162 games, we don't play a 163rd game. We settle it with like a baby race. Like, how they like have the babies race at like minor league games, like the mom's like at the pitching mound and the baby's on second base. Okay. So we put, we've got one baby in a Cardinals diaper, one baby's in a Cubs diaper. The moms call them. Whichever baby wins, that team goes to the playoffs.
Or do you pick just one baby and have 2 helmets and whatever the baby picks?
No, I think we've got to get the moms involved.
Okay.
Or grandmas or dads.
I think baby races are fun.
Me too.
Let's load it up, man.
Babies or baby. Who doesn't love pitting babies against each other?
Rob Manfred.
Well,
clown.
I'm going to send this to his office and we'll, see if he rejects it.
Okay, so now here comes me being a little bit more ridiculous, and this is going with home field advantage. So every inning that the visiting team is winning, every inning that the visiting team is winning, the home team is allowed to stipulate one defensive player who is not allowed to wear a fielding glove, but the defender can't be the same every inning. So
wow.
if I'm at home and the visiting team hits a 2-run home run to open up the game and it's 2-0 going into the top of the second, I can say your first baseman is not allowed to wear a glove for the whole inning.
Can you imagine if being a third baseman without a glove? Someone like rips one down the line.
No, I'm just gonna bunt the whole time, and you can't throw it to first. I guess you can, but then your first baseman's hand's gonna hurt. Some of those balls come in at like 80 miles an hour, especially the shots into the hole. The shortstop fires them. They can you imagine the shortstop for the Pirates? Not Dela Cruz. It is Dela Cruz. He throws hard. Yeah, the first baseman can't wear a glove. Sorry, you're winning.
That's one that is ridiculous, but I also really like it.
It's a bad idea, but it's a good bad idea.
So I just thought this one up on the fly while we were talking. So this is my 6th one.
Ooh,
so you know how in the NFL, if you challenge and you don't win the replay review and you lose a timeout.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough of a deterrent. So in baseball, if the manager chooses to challenge a ruling and the replay says, no, the call was right, that manager almost like Fear Factor style. It's going to be some sort of unknown food stuff, but not really food, something really gross.
In a glass coffin of tarantulas.
And the manager has to like eat it or get lowered into like like a vat of chili or something, like just something really unpleasant.
Oh no, it has to be worse than chili. I mean, yeah, eating the. Oh yeah, I like that. That's
I don't know.
You could do that instead of so the manager can choose to not get ejected if he completes a Fear Factor challenge. Which has to be outside the stadium, so the manager has to leave the stadium with a cameraman.
Oh no, here comes Earl Weaver, and you know what that means? They're bringing out the horse intestines.
That's good. That's good stuff. See, that's the kind of stuff I was expecting that I just can't compete with that. So the next one I came up with, I mean, it's kind of dumb. It's more of a season-long thing, and it's to try to contain the stolen bases. Yeah, we made the bases bigger. The pitcher can't throw over as many times. But once a player has hit the 30 steal mark of the season, he may no longer wear shoes while he's batting. Out in the field, cool. But running the bases, no more cleats.
I would look. We're talking about bringing in casuals. I would 100% watch that. And I just thought of another one. We talk about making the bases bigger. I go the other way. We make them like the size of a postage stamp.
Ooh.
Can you imagine how exciting stolen bases would get? You're running. You can't even find the thing. It's covered in dirt.
The first baseman have a hard time getting outs.
Going to be a lot of sprained ankles, a lot of broken ankles.
A lot of cleat problems. Unless, you're a 30 home run guy and then you're running down the line just wearing your stocking feet.
Right.
My next two, I think these are really good. So again, home field advantage now. If a player from the visiting team hits a home run, the ball is still live. The fans can throw the ball back to the fielders to try to record an out. And any fan assist results in free hot dogs for the entire section. So if you're a visiting fan, you are now in like a scrapping brawl to try to save your team's home run. You are now part of the game as a fan.
Right. It'll turn into like a scramble, like when people were trying to get like McGuire's 62nd.
Absolutely.
But
only for the visiting team.
I really like that.
Team, still a home run.
I really like that idea.
We're making baseball better.
I think we're doing God's work here.
I think so.
Ask your producer, how much does Rob Manfred make? What's his salary?
Manfred's salary. Currently, he's making $17.5 million.
Overpaid. We're doing his job for him.
I mean, I have one more that might be my favorite. So you're ready for this? The offensive team. Now, again, this might be only for the home team because of logistics, but the offensive team has two players or coaches posted atop two platforms around the on-deck circle, like the American Gladiators, and like the game Assault, they have one clip of tennis balls that come out at 200 miles an hour, and they can shoot that one inning per game. They can shoot them wherever they want until their clip is empty.
You had me at American Gladiators. Can you imagine settling under a fly ball and someone's whipping tennis balls at you?
The 200-mile tennis ball coming at your nuts. That was one of the first ideas I thought of. Like, dude, that is so goofy, so cartoon, so Bugs Bunny-ish. It just might work.
Or like a catcher, like it used to be you were worried about getting run over at the plate, but you're waiting for that throw from the cutoff man. You're just like nervously looking at a tennis ball cannon, like, stay away from the face, not the face.
It's a 3-2 count with the bases loaded. The pitcher starts his windup, and he gets caught right in the knee.
That'll also change how teams hire managers, because like it'll be like now
The coaching staff would have to be up there. Like your first base and third base coach are important, but now your American Gladiators coaches are just as important. Like
Right.
Gemini gets a job in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I was gonna say, introducing your new third base coach, Nitro. Some guy in like with a mullet and super jacked traps and lats. He's up there fist pumping to the crowd.
Exactly. Man, there's our list. That's our top 5.
We just made baseball.
I'll be honest. Again. I haven't been as excited for a segment as I was for that in a long time. Like that was just goofy, stupid fun that you're not getting anywhere in regular media. You're only getting it here on Soup and Meatballs. Like we could almost do that for football and basketball and not be as ridiculous because it's harder, but good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I think, even something like the Savannah Bananas could adopt some of those, like in game.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, the cannon or the home run thing, get the fans involved. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that is good stuff. And Mr. Smarty Pants is kind of gonna piggyback off of rule changes in Major League Baseball. We're gonna focus on one of the rule changes that came upon a long time ago that I think has been pretty good. And you said it doesn't bother you exactly. The designated hitter. So couple DH questions for you. Easy one to get you started. Easy one to make you feel good. Who was the first DH in Major League Baseball?
Ron Blomberg, 73 with the Yankees.
Here it is, April 6th. That's the nice one. Do you know when Major League Baseball started using the DH in the World Series?
'87.
Oh, mine, no. One more guess. 19. Well, it's a 19.
Okay. What? Boy, I would just be throwing out a random year. For some reason, I thought it was Twins Cardinals in '87. I don't know why.
There is a 7 in the number. This happens to be the first number.
77.
76.
Yankees Reds.
There you go. So the last question was the DH usually replaces the pitcher in the lineup. Who is the only pitcher in Major League Baseball history to have a 3 home run game? Hint, it's not Bartolo Colon.
Bumgarner?
It's not Bumgarner. That's probably a good guess. He was a really good hitter.
Yeah.
Way earlier, 1940s.
Oh, God. This
is the tough one.
I was trying to think of other pitchers who were good hitters like Doc Good and Dontrell Willis, Bob Gibson.
I'd never even heard of this name, so if you don't get this, don't feel bad.
Which league?
National League. Boston Braves.
Braves.
He did it against the Chicago Cubs. He was 3 for 4 that day, and the one out was a very, very loud out to the outfield. Should have had a 4-homer game. As it was written in the story I read.
How about Johnny Sane?
Jim Tobin.
I'd have never gotten that.
That's that. But it's you learn something here on Soup and Meatballs. I read as part of the story research, he had hit a home run as a pinch hitter the day before.
Oh, so, wow.
Big power guy for the Boston Braves, 1942. So list-wise, our Mr. Smarty Pants list, David Ortiz, quite possibly the most famous of all Red Sox designated hitters. He retired in 2016, and since then, the Red Sox have had 4 regular DHs and 4 guys that had a cup of coffee as a DH. How many of those guys do you think you can list?
Oh, boy. I've been such a casual baseball fan, I don't know if I could list any. I truly don't.
I would have gotten 1. Oh, geez, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I've been so casual with baseball.
So I'll give you 1 was a trade from the Marlins.
And
I knew him. He won a World Series with the Marlins. 2017. I don't know when he was traded from the Marlins, but he was a Marlin before this.
Because my first thought was Mike Lowell, but that's well before 2016.
Yeah, not Lowell.
Hanley?
He has a Hanley Ramirez was 2017, and then there was a guy listed on Baseball Reference. He DH'd 6 times that game. He was definitely a September call-up cup of coffee. Blake Swihart.
Yeah,
I never heard of Blake Swihart. The next guy was from 2018 to 2022. One of the most feared hitters in the Red Sox lineups in those years. He might have played outfield before that as well, before he became the full-time DH.
outfield before becoming the DH. Feared hitter. From 18 to 20.
He spent some time with Houston and Detroit and Arizona before joining the Red Sox in 2018.
Poof. Boy, that's the World Series year too.
I don't remember him in Houston, but that's where he came up.
Yeah, that's what's throwing. Who is it?
JD Martinez.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
JD, he was the big hitter. I hated seeing him come up when we played him. Also in 2022, 7-game DH guy named Travis Shaw.
Yeah, I would have never gotten that.
I didn't get Travis Shaw. The next 2, last year's and this year's, I don't know much about them that I could give you clues on. This guy, the one from 2023. Oh, okay, he played all over. A lot of time with the Dodgers. And he's a pretty good hitter. Big redheaded beard.
Well, I don't know why I immediately went to Max Muncy.
No, he's an infielder though. He's like a utility infielder. Plays all over except for shortstop.
Utility infielder.
Small guy. 5'11".
Yeah. Boy, I'm really biffing it today.
Justin Turner.
Oh my God.
Justin Turner was your DH last year, and then this year, Japanese player.
Oh my God, what's his name? See, this is the problem. Like anything that happened like 50 years ago, I know it like that. But things like I still like forget like players who are on the current Eagles. Like
There you go.
Yeah, boy.
He's a young guy too. He's only in this. Last year was his second year with Boston, and he had a very pedestrian year as an American League DH. 10 home runs, 56 runs batted in.
I know the name, but I don't know it because I can see him.
I don't know. The first name I think would be Masatake.
Yeah.
And then Masatake Yoshida would be his name.
I don't. In my mind, I kept saying like Ishiguro or something. I don't know why. That's so terrible. I'm like that with actors too, where Paul Mescal hosted Saturday Night Live last night, and I kept calling him Pedro Pascal. I'm truly becoming such an old man.
I'm there with you. So, and the other 2, cups of coffee, 24 games last year. Garrett Cooper was the DH, and Tyler Heineman DH 2 games. And I've never heard of either one of those. I didn't know if you switched the tables on me, I couldn't tell you who the DH was before Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, I would lose it at like Giambi.
Right.
So that's not an easy list, but I couldn't think of another list to do today. So
boy,
I like our list of baseball rules. That's enough.
JD's gonna eat at me all day though.
Go watch Love Actually, and it'll be fine. Or Batter Santa will take your mind off of JD Martinez.
After the Eagles, possibly during the second half.
There you go. It's 12:10, so we're there. I'm a terrible person. Like I said, I slept in and I ran out of prep time. I don't have any rank roulettes or bracket busters or any of that kind of goofy fun stuff. So what did I miss today? What did we not talk about today?
I don't know, because it's funny. I'm looking here, and we're right at our same runtime. Because I think both the Christmas list and the ideas for Major League Baseball went a little longer than we expected, and also the college football talk. There was a lot of Michigan talk and a lot of bowl talk.
If it wasn't for the Michigan discussion, the draft and top five are like the highlight of the show for me. But I'll talk about Michigan winning, and I go back to that. I mean, Khalil Mullings etched his name into Michigan lore, not quite Biaka Batuka level, but dude, that 140-yard performance, considering they couldn't throw the ball,
and
I have no problem talking about that.
And considering that Edwards got hurt in the first half and wasn't there to spell him. Good
time, man. No, and I think we're gonna have a hard time duplicating the awesomeness of the B block, the draft and top five. That was, like I'm telling you, like I started looking forward to that on Tuesday when you came up with, like, dude, this is fun, man.
I should come up with a rank roulette for you next week, because I haven't done that in a while.
They give you something to do.
Yeah. I'll have to see what I come up with. Knowing me, it'll either be food related or movie related.
That's cool. The one of the shows we missed was we had a top five. I have to go back and look at some of the notes. Like we put this in the can for later, like our top five best '90s movies or something. Like when we get out of the holiday season, like we can revisit that. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think that was when back in October, because it was when Pulp Fiction was turning 30.
That's right. But yeah, that's something we could look into. But next week, Christmas songs works. I have to remember to send you this most like the weirdest Christmas song hearing in the car driving on the turnpike. It was one of those like, what is this? It was so weird. Hopefully you feel the same way and you're like, dude, that's my favorite song. That was gonna be my number one pick.
I used to hate when I worked at the paper during Christmas season. They would pipe in not just Christmas music, but it was the same songs would play at regular. It was only like 10 songs over an 8-hour shift, so they would just play in like a loop, and it would get to be like December 18th, and I would hear that Bing Crosby Hawaiian Christmas song, and I would be ready to just set myself on fire in the parking lot.
I told this story. So Derek, the marching band, I showed you the video of it. The day that he did that, he had 3 parades in one day. I'm on the school bus they had 5 school buses to take the kids from city to city. And I was talking to one of the other adults on the bus. And this is a nostalgia for you. I want to see if you remember this. If you go back to 6th grade, when we got on the bus, we're sitting in the back. Do you remember the song that played 70% of the time on that radio?
Oh, boy.
Oh, come on, man. This is worse than JD Martinez if you don't remember this.
It's not coming to me.
We got yelled. So the bus driver yelled at us because we were singing along with it in the back. I had to come up to the front of the bus because he got mad because we were singing it.
What was it?
You never close your eyes anymore. And we sat in the back and we were singing You Lost That Love and Feeling, and the bus driver had curly hair. I remember this guy got so mad at us. He's like, "You get up here." I'm like, what are we doing? He's like, just stop being a smart ass. I'm like, we're singing. And I got in trouble for singing.
We used to, do you remember we sang that with football in the locker room? Do you remember?
I remember the football song was the Whitney Houston One Moment in Time. Because Coach Matz was talking about the 94 team. It was like, that was our one moment in time. And some of the guys, they latched on to that. Like that became one of the, like every team has a thing.
Yeah.
Like the one year, like the Yankees were like the big thumbs down thing because of the guy in the stands, or, you have the one rallying cry, the rally monkey type thing.
Yeah.
That
the Eagles had the underdog. They wore the rubber dog masks during the
season. Yeah. So like, I think our 10th grade year, I think your first year was 11th grade. Our 10th grade year was One Moment in Time. And then 11th grade, it was Payback's a B on the shirt. That was,
right.
That was wild in and of itself. And 10th grade or 12th grade was the painting of the paws all over town.
Right. And
Which
then,
looking back, I actually don't think that was a bad idea. It was a good fundraiser. And
I don't either.
it's supposed to bring the community together.
Do you remember players on the offense? I forget. It was red something, and then defense it was silver streak or
Silver streak. Yeah, no, I was a corner, so no. And who do I know from the offense that I could even email and ask that would remember? Like, I am not in touch with guys like Doria or Saxon. Omalecki is no longer with us, sadly.
Marty Gill, Baylog. Well, Baylog was on defense.
Gill and Baylog, yeah, as linemen. I don't. Marty, when we went to that camp, Sudden Six, what do you think that means?
Yeah.
Marty, Kevin Baylog said something dumb, and Gill was like, "Dude, what's wrong with you?" I bet you Brian Ellis is still in touch with Marty Gill.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You know what? I actually found Brian on Instagram. He's a musician guy now. He's playing the piano, playing guitar. He's rocking out. Like, go find him on Instagram and see some of his. He's good stuff, man. I like it.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I haven't talked to him in ages. Like, he got
That's
off
a
Facebook.
list for you. Like, how many people on the Hazleton area offense can you name from '96? Like, Strack was the quarterback. Saxon was one of the wideouts. Omalecki was a running back. Doria was a wideout. Fisher was a center.
The guards were Gill and Jameson.
I thought the Jameson was a tackle.
No, because Wayne and Juracek were the tackles.
Okay.
The receivers were Kalinowski, Saxon.
Kalinowski. I couldn't think of that name. It was Justin. JK was the initials. Justin Kalinowski. Yeah.
Marnell, Jim Marnell, was he a receiver? And then one of the Doria brothers.
Jimmy Doria was. I'm not 100% on Marnell, so yeah, I'll give it to you. But Saxon was one of the slot guys.
Yeah,
and they designed an inside run for him at least, because I always thought that was interesting. Like, you have a 1,000-yard running back in the Wyoming Valley Conference and you make him your slot receiver.
He was like a 1,200-yard guy junior year.
If you count the playoff game, but it was still a 1,000-yard back, which was a big deal back then.
Yeah,
it would be a big deal now. Sure. Yeah, that's not bad. Good to remember. I mean, you can't remember J.D. Martinez, but you pulled out Justin Fisher.
Yeah.
Boy. I remember, I remember running like scout team defense against that offense. And like, they had the one play where Saxon would run in motion and be like in a stack with the other wide receiver, and they ran two plays out of that. The wide receiver screen to Saxon, or the slant to Doria. And I remember telling Moses, I'm like, dude, just stay put. Well, you run a zone to this. Like, I'll take the motion guy, you take the slant. And Moses was like, okay. And he didn't take the slant. I got yelled at because I was playing the play. I'm like, what do you think coaches are going to do when they see this on film? You run 6 offensive plays. They're not hard to scout.
I got criticized for that too, because I remember they used to run the receivers in motion to crack back the defensive ends. And
you were just supposed to take it.
Right, and I was like, I'm not going to knowingly run into a block.
They're like, well, they're not going to know this. I'm like, it's advanced scout. You get a tape, you get a film. You run 6 plays. If I've scouted you as a high school senior, what do you think George Curry's doing?
Right.
But the good. You know what I liked about the uniforms that we got. An interesting take. We were like Oregon before Oregon. We put the stickers on the back of the helmet. Do you remember why?
I don't.
Oh, because his method, or his reasoning was, as we were running to score a touchdown, the defense would see our paws. How cheesy is that? But it was kind of cool. It was different. You know, the stickers were always on the side of the helmet, so they changed up. Our helmets used to look like Washington State, where it said Cougars on the side, the silver helmet with the red. Yeah. We went to a red helmet with a white face mask, which really looked
odd.
It looked different. It was odd. But they changed it up a little bit with the stickers in the back, the Cougar paws. We got rid of the script Cougars, and I don't know when they went to the interlocking HA. But I think that was a good change.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's better than what we had, to be honest. I like the interlocking.
I like our old school uniform. feels very much like I look back at Michigan's uniforms in the 90s with the big M patch for the Rose Bowl, and it was big and baggy, and you
And
had
like
the holes
perforated like
through.
along like the chest. Yeah.
Yeah, like I look back, I like those jerseys. I like that style, but that's the product of being 46 years old now and looking back at the good old days. You know, the kids' jerseys now, like they wear them to school on Friday nights, but they're so tight. Some of the linemen can't even wear them. Like they wear them as necklaces because they can't pull them down.
Yeah.
They're designed to not get hit. There should never be a holding call anymore. I don't know how you hold.
It's amazing how baggy our jerseys were.
Absolutely. But then you got to see the pads underneath, or the guys who had ab muscles when they were catching the ball.
I used to. I remember I would wear like half shirts under the shoulder pads.
I found my half. I sent you the picture of it. It still sort of fits, but really
the
uncomfortably, really awkwardly. I wore that shirt under my tuxedo when I got married. I did.
You, I know. I texted this to you. You wear the Raymond Harris half shirt.
We were supposed to do that this week, but yeah.
I'll break out my old
Michigan won, so they get that. Your onesie.
Well, it's funny. I was going to wear the onesie today, and I was sitting here like getting hot flashes like a menopausal woman, so I changed out of it.
It's a good call. So I'm downstairs, so my house is like up and down, so the computer's downstairs. Well, if we do the show in the summer, I'm going to be frozen out because of the way the HVAC works. Like we have to pump the air conditioning down here. The heat is not pumping down here, so I'm relatively chilly. I could use a good onesie, I think.
I wore it last night. It's a revelation. I might buy another one.
Jen got a onesie for Christmas a couple years ago. It's a shark onesie. It would never fit me because it's her size, but she never wears it. It's a shame.
It's such soft cotton. It's just head to toe. It's changing the way I sleep.
You sleep in the onesie?
I did last night.
You almost need. Do you need to be swaddled too? Is that a?
I did buy a weighted blanket.
Did you? Oh, my mother-in-law has one of those. I haven't like worn it or messed around with it, but yeah, that's a thing.
It's funny because anytime I would go to the dentist and they would put the lead chest or the lead head for X-rays, and I would always get
another 20 pounds on me. Can I wear like 3 of these?
I would get oddly tired in the chair. I'd be like, "Oh, this is such a." That's exactly what the weighted blanket is like. It without the radiation.
Good deal. No. Whoa! This just in. Well, 21 minutes ago at noon, the college football bracket show started. So.
Oh.
I thought that was a 6 o'clock thing. What do I know?
That's weird that they wouldn't do it in prime time.
I don't know if my producer has any kind of inside information. It's still a prediction. It's live on the network right now. I'm not going to worry about it. It's a good time today, though.
I agree.
Next week it would be like the pre-Christmas show. I'm probably not going to be able to do, Christmas weekend when like the 21st and 22nd. That's a toss-up. I don't know when I'm going to Hazleton. I got to tell my dad. We see if you're not doing anything, if you want to come in for dinner.
Oh yeah.
We could do a live show. We'll do a recording in the blue room downstairs.
We can actually do soup and meatballs while we eat soup and meatballs.
That's like a plan. Do you have any idea where my dad is right now? Did I tell you?
He is in Africa?
He is. So if I do the find my phone thing, as of 30 minutes ago, Bob Gemelli is in the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania.
He's blessing the rains.
What's funny is the day before he flew out. He flew out on Monday when Jen and I were coming home from dinner. The Weezer version of Africa was on the radio, and we're like, this is kind of interesting. But yeah, he's there.
Rivers Cuomo can't hit those notes. He can't.
12-day excursion, and the quickest way to Africa from Philadelphia through Detroit.
Naturally.
Yeah, so he's flying back to Boston. I don't know when, but according to the pictures, his friend Linda is posting stuff more than he does. He called me one day, so he's like, the way his phone was working, he had to pay like a $20 a day fee. And he's like, I'm probably not going to be online so much, but Linda will send you texts, and that's fine. So the one day he did decide to call, based on the time differences, I was in the shower getting ready for school, and I had my hands full of the gel soap that I use. And the phone starts going off. I'm like, oh my goodness. So like, I'm quick, don't let it dry my hands off a little bit. I have the phone in the shower with me. Well, that was easily the weirdest place I've talked to my dad. I've talked while I was in the bathroom, never in the shower. That was the first.
And by the way, you say about your dad not posting much. I sent him a Facebook friend request like 4 years ago when I saw he's on Facebook, and he's big timing me.
Wow, well, he probably doesn't know how. I think Roseanne handled a lot of his. I got his Facebook profile picture up. Like, he didn't want his picture, so I'm like, I'll just put DiMaggio up there for both of them.
Yeah.
If you look at his Facebook page now, there's one. The picture, there's a post of most absolutely definitely a bot, someone who should not be. Let me see if I can find it here. I'll get my producer working. He's not Bob Gemelli. He's Robert Gemelli. He's Robert Lewis. There it is. It's Miss Lucy Love. Hi, I'm new. Can we be friends? I need a friend no matter the age. Message me if you want. And like he must have got that as a message, which is spam. And instead of hitting delete, he hit share, which is kind of funny.
My dad used to post on Facebook, and then at the bottom, like he would put like he was like signing off on a letter, like he would put "Love Dad" or like "Love Greg." It's such an old man, like confused with technology thing to do.
Someday, probably in the next 30 years, you and I will be on like the new VR, whatever it is, and we'll be like, what is this? What is this contraption? Back in my day, we had rotary phones, and
I'm getting there with I'm getting there with smart TV, where like sometimes when it's not working. And I'm just like, well, I'm like Jimmy Stewart and It's a Wonderful Life. I'm like, well, that's the end of me. Where's the closest bridge?
It's time to jump. I don't even have a smart TV. I have cable. That my dad has a smart TV that runs, like, he'll call it the Roku or it's Roku, but he calls it something else.
Yeah.
Because he can't pronounce anything correctly, and that's like his thing. But then sometimes that'll extend into his text messages, where like, what are you talking about? Like, I get you can't say a word verbally, but at least spell it right.
Right. Right.
But he's got the Bob Gemelli sausage fingers too. That I run into that. I have a problem though. Like, I will hit the backspace. Like, sometimes, like, if you can see the 3 dots that I'm sending you a message, and if it's like if I'm sending you a message for like 6 minutes, but it's only 2 words, it's because I've hit backspace and it's not spelling correctly, and it bugs me. He doesn't care. He'll send, like, watch this. This will be what he does. I'm going to get right on the text message live with you, and I'm just going to hit the middle button. There, that's a sentence. And I just hit buttons. I like the suggested words. The only way I could do that was if you wanted me to come over there and pick you out or something.
It's like a party game almost.
Almost like, what, Bob? What are you trying to say? And then I'll call him. And he's like, no, I meant to say this, which is totally different. And again, it's the joke. Listen to what I mean, not what I say.
Right, SMU.
But it's listen to what I mean, not what I write. I'm like, well, I'm at the point now where my bladder is like even at my level.
I've been hitting this water hard, and it's
yeah, a whole cup worth, and we're half an hour away from kickoff, so it's probably lunchtime. Good show, good talking to you, and as always, if anybody out there thinks we're goofy, it's fine. We are goofy. Like and subscribe, all the happy stuff, and we'll see you back here next week, either Saturday or Sunday, whenever